Welcome to another episode of Latina Life with Jen and Melina. Today, we have another Super Latina joining us. So excited, so thrilled to have her on. She's a mother of three. She's the founder of the online woman empowerment community, Women of Today, and a New York Times bestselling author with her new book, Just Try One Bite. Welcome to the show, Camila, Alves, McConaughey. How are you?
Oh, thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm still to hear you said New York Times bestseller in front of my name, still a new thing. I'm still going, what? Okay. Yes, I'm here.
Congratulations on that. That is an amazing honor and an amazing title, but you worked really hard at it. And you know what, talking about your book, and we're going to dive right into that, right, Jen?
Yes.
Food is something that we as Latinas love.
Yes, but as you guys know, being from, a different country, look, I only spoke three sentences in English when I first moved to this country.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, literacy, having a book, being on bookshelves, being part of that process was something I never really even thought about. You know what I mean? I thought it was so far out of my reach. So to learn the language, how I learned, I learned this on the streets, really, talking to people, working and all of that. I went to school for a very short period of time. So when we launched the book, just going in the store for the first time and seeing a book on the bookshelf in the store with my name in it, I was like, okay, this is so wild. And then once I got, the instant New York Times, I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. And it was it's been a wild journey in terms of just, like you said, from the beginning to doing this. And all of a sudden I go, oh, this is a barrier that I never really expected to break or to get into that category, right? Or into that group, right? Because English is not my first language. I still learn a new word of English every single day, one or more every single day. So for me to be writing something, partnering, I partner with Adam to write this. But anyway, so that's kind of the journey of just, it's still such a barrier that I never thought I would be able to break, that I never thought I could be in that category. So still for me, a big, okay, which it gives all of us, just again, a different perspective of, as you get older, sometimes, when you're young, when you first move to this country, you're come on, you're ready to fight. Mm-hmm. And I feel that as you get older, sometimes you just kind of got to go, well, that's what I've learned. That's the lane I stay in. This is what I do. Mm-hmm. So it was a big eye-opening for me.
Right. I mean, let me talk about the importance of the representation of, Latinas and the Latina family, a mixed family as well, in the literary world, because that is so important. I think we're seeing a little bit more and more of it. There's a lot of Latinas out there who are self-publishing, or they have their own publishing company, and they're trying to help others out as well. But to see you actually make that mark, I mean, it's just, you're opening the doors for so many others. And is that something that you think about?
I think it would be strange for me to go well, I'm going to pave the path or opening doors. I don't think of myself, being that person. It's just not my nature. I'm thinking more of, I always think of myself of just, go to work, get it done, break barriers, break the chain. I'm always break the chain, Camila, break the chain of where you come from, what people did it, or whatever. So I always go that way. So I don't see myself as this big, what's the word in English? Here we go.
Advocate to open ground. Yeah.
Exactly, right. But then when it happens, and it has happened in multiple times along my career and my life, and my personal life and all of that. But when it does happen, then I do take a moment to step back and go, okay, what does that mean? It hasn't been many Brazilians that have done that, it hasn't been, and again, when you look at the book, right, I have a copy of the book here, like you say, it's representing a mixed family, right? Which I see it a lot of one way or another, right? I don't see that mix of like, okay, when you have a mixed family, when like, so I think that when I step back and I go, oh yeah, this is cool, because it is opening paths for other people that want to do the same way.
It definitely
Absolutely.
is.
Well, your book also, I mean, even though the way that it was conceptualized and everything, because it's not like just eat your vegetables type of book, you reversed it. That's the whole premise of the book, in regards to the parents are the ones not eating the right foods and the children are calling out the parents. So that right there, you guys created something different, but you put a lot of thought into it because again, there is that representation there of a mixed family because we're seeing so many, that's just the way the world we live in. And so did you want to do that because you saw your family in that, or was it more just like, let's just do something different?
No, I think that it's an area that it's not fully represented. And, and I was very specific about it. Like even when the illustration was almost final, I went back and I said, guys, like, because all the kids look the same color. And I was like, guys, no, like the dad, like you gotta mix it up a little bit. Cause I think that, it is a large majority of us, which, this generation, it's a gap of people that either you are full on from a different country and you can't, and you came here, but then you were born here with mixed families and you kind of wait, am I Latina? Am I American? Am I American? Am I Latina? Where do I fit in? Well, but
Absolutely.
I don't really, like, and again, this multicultural thing, I think it's a theme that I don't see when I go into a bookshop. I was just at the bookshop the other day, signing some books at Book People. And, they had a beautiful display of all kinds of books. And again, I saw a lot of, you either see one color or one gender or one, or one culture or one, and I'm like, well, but we're all kind of mixed, right? And it is my family. My kids are mixed kids. They're not one or another. They, I think it's very important. I teach them both cultures, like, and make that very alive for both sides for them. So I just thought it was a very important thing to represent. And yes, it is a, the illustration is not my family. It's, that was never the intention. But in a way, it does represent how we are a mixed family.
Right. Yeah, because that has to be very important. And as a Latina mother of, coming from a family that is mixed, what is the one thing that you really want to teach your children about your culture, Brazil? Like, what is it that do they speak Spanish, Portuguese? Like, is there something that you that you want to do?
And how do you do it? Because I mean, I've got a 15-year-old and 18-year-old, right? And so of course, you know how it is with work. I think you maybe have traveled a little bit more. We're a little bit more tethered here because of our work. So I didn't get a chance to go back to Mexico as much as I wanted to, or as much as I went. Like I would go every summer. It was just harder with the kids, and they have their things. And you're caught up in the soccer games and theater or whatever. So you're kind of tethered. So how do you do it?
Look, I think that the language, as much as I think is extremely important, it's a challenge. When you don't have, my mom used to live with us. So for the time that my mom lived with us, her and I spoke Portuguese the whole time. So, like my oldest son, he speaks better Portuguese than the two youngest because he was around more, right? For the time he lived with us. But if you don't have anybody that speaks in the household, it just is a challenge. Like it just, I really give a lot of props to people that are able to do it right. Cause I'm always like, how are you doing it? Like, right. So we did one thing, which we stopped, we have to go back to it. So the kids did, Portuguese classes on every Saturday they did Portuguese class at a Portuguese school here in Austin. And then we traveled so much. So then we started finding, what's the name of the company? It's a company that's all over the United States and you can learn languages. So they would do that, but like some cities will go, the teachers were great, others not so much. So it just kind of like, it got to a point where I was like, okay, this is not fully working properly. So my mother started to do a Zoom Portuguese class with my kids throughout the pandemic. And that was really sweet. And they, so they got to keep up a little bit. But
I
think
love that.
if you're able to keep the language early on with the kids, that's extremely important. I was not able to do it 100%. They know some, like I say, my oldest can get around, my youngest two, yeah, kind of thing. They're still learning. But I think that, putting the language aside, I think if you can really install the essence of the culture into the kids. And for me, with Brazil is the music.
Yes.
Is how colorful we are, is how kind our culture is, how giving our culture is.
Mm-hmm.
The food, so like the food is like, it's on the daily basis, right? The cartoon characters, right? So we used to watch the Brazilian cartoons and have the Brazilian books. They know Saci Pererê, so it's really if trying to get the essence of the culture. And I think that if the essence of the culture is there, regardless of having the language or not having the language, they would have an extreme passion and connection for what it means to have that background. So, like my kids, every time we leave Brazil, they are crying. They are in tears. Every time we go to the farm, which is like, the farm is in the middle of nowhere, barely electricity, super simple. And they are crying every time that they just want to stay there and they want to have more time there. They want to be with their Brazilian family. So I really think that, again, if you think of whatever culture it is, what is the essence? And if you can daily, have little splashes of that, weekly, have little splashes of that, then if they know the language, amazing. But if they don't, they will still love the culture and they can always, work on learning the language.
That's so true. I love that. I mean, I remember taking my kids to Mexico. They were a little bit older and they immediately fell in love with it. It's interesting though, how their experience is different than what my experience was. I mean, my mom's like 1 of 10, my dad's 1 of 13. So of course, growing up when we went to go visit family in Somalia, they weren't as well off as they are now. There was a little bit more struggle. We didn't have the hot water, you showered in cold water. And then I'm telling my kids all these stories and we get there and of course, and granted, it's like great for them, they moved on up and it's a 2-story house. Like, what do you mean, Mom? This is great. I'm like, it was not like this. It was not like this when I grew up.
You're like, I didn't get the warm water. But I feel like a lot of us, like going to Bolivia, it's the same thing, right? It's, I was just like, oh my God, like this is such a different world, but I appreciate where I come from now. You know what I mean? Like now that we're here and I'm just like, wow, like I would do anything to like be able to visit more. But Camila, as when you came here, you worked really, really hard to really get where you are. I mean, this wasn't just handed to you. You really, I don't think people realize like everything that you did
like you were 15
in order to achieve what you have accomplished. So as you came here, because you wanted to model and stuff, what would you say was probably one of your biggest barriers to when you were trying to achieve and getting into the modeling industry?
As a Latina as well.
Yes, you got me a little teary-eye over there. You're talking and like I had a little flashback movie of all going through my head right now. Look, I think that for me, in terms of the modeling world, right? That's the specific question that you're asking. I think that it was really, again, as I was kind of like, I wasn't white, but I wasn't dark skin. I was Latina enough. I wasn't, you know what I mean? Like I always kind of felt like I was in the middle and the client, like, brands sometimes didn't know what to do with me because it wasn't as of a diverse world that we have now. I bet you that if I would start modeling now, my career would have been very different. Very different. My career would be very different than it was back then, because they would literally be like, we love you, like, you're beautiful, but like, we need a dark skin and we need a white, or we need white and we need a a blonde hair, and we need this. Like, it was very, like, it was a lot of, yes, so I remember being, trying to be a bit of a chameleon. So if it was like, I would straighten my hair for certain things, and like my hair lighter color or darker, or do afro. I used to sit at night and roll my hair into pieces of paper towel to wake up with an afro, because okay, maybe if I got an afro, I will fit more than into these categories that they have,
right
to put in. So I think that was a bit of a challenge for me when I was going through, just the fact that I wasn't spot on into what they called the categories that they saw back then, including the Latina category, which if you go back, we're talking, I was 19 years old. So 20 years ago, it wasn't a lot of that representation. Brazilians were represented, but it was different. Again, it was Giselle, which is more fair skin, lighter hair, or, again, that middle of the fiddle, like where, we got brown, but where are you from? Kind of that mystique that we all have, right? That we all have, just wasn't that much representation of it.
But you were able to do that for so many now, you know what I mean? Because now a lot of the models are darker skin, beautiful, like darker features and stuff like that. So do you ever look back and just sort of wonder, like, wow, like this, looking at yourself and being like, this is beautiful. Like, this is what beauty is now accepted in most around the world, because you really broke that barrier.
Well, I think that beauty, look, that's a whole bigger conversation about what's considered beautiful or not, right? And I think that for me, and I don't know if it's because I travel all over the world, I lived in different places around the world, I'm able to look at people and appreciate their beauty, regardless of their color, their size, their age, all of that. Like, I don't know, for me, I see beauty from, yes, you see features. Sometimes you see people that their features are amazing. You're like, wow, like, how did that happen, right? Like, go sit on the other side of the room. Like, I always joke, but also, like, I don't know, I see beauty from the inside out, like, I think that when you're looking at somebody, if you're able to just get past what the standards are, then all of a sudden you're seeing deeper layers and you see that whole beauty. It's almost like you can almost tell what the story behind that person is. And you go, wow, you're just beautiful, right? Like, so you're able to see beauty at the same way that I've been around, some gorgeous women, but their soul, it's not pretty. So I can see, I'm like, yeah, they're not pretty. Like, they're not beautiful. Like,
right.
But they photograph great.
Right.
That brings us to another interesting question that Melanie and I were talking about, is just, obviously the beauty standards have changed or evolving a little bit here from the US and that, but tell us, like, about, if you can, like, the differences of beauty as seen in Brazil versus the US from what you've seen.
Yes, I think that Brazil went through the same changes.
Really?
In a different way, yes, because as mixed as we are, Brazil still had a bit of a race problem going on, to embrace the Afro hair, the Afro color, all of that. Like, it was still a taboo. It was still something that, it was still a race problem going on in Brazil. So it has come a long, long way as well. And also for women that are, not on this status, in that box of the body that everybody thinks it should be attractive. So if you're on, past that line, It used to also be looked down on, to where now you see musicians, we have this musician in Brazil, Jojo, and she's like fully, she embraces her body in a very, like, no, this is who I am, and
Accept it.
exactly, which before we did not have that. We did not have that before.
Do you think the challenges that Brazilian women faced in Brazil are the same as the challenges that Latinas face here in the US? Are they slightly different? Is one particular area more supportive or not?
Do you mean in terms of like what Brazilian women will face here in the United States, or in Brazil itself?
In Brazil.
In Brazil itself. No, I think it's different because, when you're in a different country, you're just dealing with different situations, right? So I think that you may have the barrier to break about, how you look, right? Or things like that, but you wouldn't necessarily have all the barriers that comes with a different culture, right? Because I think that a lot of times too, people forget how hard it is coming into a different culture. Like I saw this video the other day on Instagram. It was this video, and just somebody talking, like I guess it came from TikTok or something, I don't know. And it was like, I don't care what anybody says, if somebody packed up their whole lives and moved to a different city, they're a badass. And that, and I'm like, that's true. But if you pack up and move to a whole different country, that's the whole different level of things. And I don't think that sometimes people in the culture that you come into, a lot of people are sensitive to that, but a lot of people are not. I always laugh when people try to correct, and I still have people that try to correct me today, right? I have somebody that works with me, and she always tries to correct me on it. And I'm like, do you understand what I'm saying? She goes, I do. So that's all that matters. Like, I don't need, like, I'm not trying to, it's not that I don't want to learn proper English, but a lot of times you're in the middle of a thought, of a feeling, right? A sentiment of something. Yeah. And if you get so caught up on the fact that that person, it's mispronouncing this one word by certain letters, then are you really getting the feeling and the sentiment? Or you so caught up on the proper grammar that you're not, right? Like, yeah. So I think, I just think that a lot of times people in the culture forget, which is easy to forget, it's not their fault, but to be stripped from all of your culture, from all of your family, from all of what from your roots. And then you have to plant yourself and, put your roots back in there, but the soil is different, right? The minerals is different, like the nutrients, it's all different. And I think that and also honoring that, okay, you can put your roots here, but you still have your root, part of your roots grew at a different place or came from a different place, or it's connected to a different place. So your point of view, how you go about things is going to be unique and different. And I think that embracing those things instead of like, it's super important. I think it's extremely important.
Absolutely. And so, God, there's just so much that you were able to bring together. And then now you have your book and, you're teaching and you're doing all of these things. Is there, besides wanting to help, with food and the health aspect of it, what other message did you really want, like, to give from your book?
From the book, I think that, the main message of the book, it's really to start the conversation around food. Somebody asked me before we launched the book, somebody that I worked with me asked me, so what would be considered success for you for this book before it goes out? And I said, if I start to learn that families are having conversations about food and understanding of food with their kids, that to me will be a success. And that was it. That was my genuinely in my heart, the goal that I had for this. Obviously, I told the whole team that we needed to push, let's dream big. But deep inside in my heart, you know, you got to push the team, right? But deep inside my heart, like I wasn't trying to chase a certain thing. I was just really trying to chase, if I can get that conversation going, then that's a success to me, which it has happened. I'm getting a lot of messages. I'm crossing people on the streets and they're sharing stories, how it actually helped them with, you know, just a little kid's book, right? With the mission. And it's just, again, creating this concept, understanding this concept of balance. That is not about being, you don't have to put that pressure on being perfect, but if you understand why is good, why is bad, how does it work, what it comes from, then you've given your child and yourself the power to make the decisions. And if you do that, right, even if your child doesn't get it right away, if it takes a little while, like my kids, it took them a while, you know, they go in and out of it, but you create a stronger foundation that you can always go back to it, right? And then eventually they really start to practice in a really positive way, and it affects the whole household. And the concept that food should be fun. We're gonna have a relationship with food for the rest of our lives into the day we die.
Yeah.
You know, and the fun has kind of been taken out of it, of all this, you know, follow this, do that. That food is not that it shouldn't be that complicated, right? So bringing the fun back to food and giving the power of knowledge, I think it's you know, very strong points of the book.
And you make it look fun. I saw your social media post with Matthew and the kids when they were just devouring the yucca fries.
Yeah.
Tell me about the yucca fries story, and how easy was it to get everyone to try one bite with that?
Oh, they love it. They love it. Like, you know, but we've been doing yucca since they were little. I've been doing yucca since they were little.
Oh, got it.
Like, I love yucca. So my kids love it more than French fries. Like, it doesn't stay in the plate. It's literally like fighting. I have to go, hey, slow down. Like, it's okay. And they're trying to like put, you know, who puts more in the plate kind of thing. So I think starting early, that's why, you know, this concept of the book, start early, you know, then you start early, then it's a easier battle later on for you, you know?
Well, that's great. And so I guess for everybody listening and who wants to get into illustration and, well, the book and writing the book and putting it together, what tips would you give for somebody who has that dream?
Look, you started, you know, in the beginning, you shared how, you know, how hard I work, that things were not handed to me, which is very true. And I think that, you know, people do have the misconception, right? Well, you're married to Matt. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that, guys. Like, it doesn't, you know, snap a finger and get it done. It doesn't work like that. Even so, I've been working my whole life from very early on. And I think that one thing that I've learned early on, when I was cleaning houses and waiting tables, that I learned that you have to realize what you're good at and what you're not. And then you have to go, when I'm good at it, I'm owning that. No, I'm owning that. That's my space. What you're not good at it, you got to find people that can really support and help you either get better at it, so you can own it, or, you know, or partner with people or learn from people. So it's very important. So I think that in terms of, you know, writing a book, I was terrified of writing a book on my own, because again, like I said, like, it's not my language. I write long, you know, when you translate from Portuguese to English, it goes long. So my writing is very long, and I'm like, how am I going to fit this mission into, you know,
the book?
a thin kid's book. They can only have so many words per page and all of that. So, you know, that's when Adam, you know, with his experience, came on board and really made that magic happen. But you have to own it first, what you really want, right? So I came in with, this is the mission, this is the idea, this is what I want to pass it along to other families and kids and parents. And then we work together to create, you know, this writing and this word and all of that, which he did majority of the writing, because again, I was terrified to it, right? If I were to do another book, maybe I wouldn't be so terrified of it. Maybe I would take it a shot on my own, right? To kind of, I don't know. But I think that if anybody's trying to write a book, the process, it's way more complicated than what it really seems. And that's not to put anybody down. It's just to understand that it's work. You're not just going to go like, oh, let me, you know, put these words down. Like, it's work. So finding partners from, who's going to publish your book, the illustrator, the illustration is extremely important. You want to get an illustrator that by the time they're done, you cannot imagine the words without the characters. So that's when you got a really good illustrator, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the illustrator, for me, one tip that for me, how I, how we chose my quote, but for me personally, I was like, how are the eyes of a character and expressions of a character say a lot, right? And keeps engaged, right? So that was one thing that I kind of became more aware in the process. And who you're going to partner with, who is going to push the book? Do they believe in the same things that you believe in? Do they believe in you as hard as you do? Do they see the vision that you see? Do they also think that you can achieve a certain level that you can? Like Deandra worked so closely with me on this, and she was like, no, as Latinas, like, we're going to do, like she's like, we're going to do this, and we're going to, we're in it for, we're going to try harder, we're going to give it our best. So you need those kind of people around, because if not, the process can be challenging, and can also be, right before we launched the book, we didn't know if the book was going to work or not. So then you start doubting the process, you know what I mean? This and that. So you need those people that are strong believers of you and what you accomplish and that mission to continue pushing that project and you to be successful. So I think those would be the tips. Really surrounding yourself with the right people is extremely important, and knowing what you're good at and what you're not. And what you're not, what are you doing? Are you bringing somebody to do it, or are you going to bring somebody to teach you to get better at it and you can do it? Because it's a big mistake when you go, well, I can do it all, I know it all, if you actually don't, right?
Yeah, that is very true. Well, we definitely believe in you, Camila. So any of your projects, always happy to support you, because I just think as Latinas, we have to support one another. It's extremely important. The other communities, they definitely support one another. And I feel like, which is why we did this, is because we need more support out there amongst the Latina women, because there's so many of us all over the world. So you definitely are an
different
inspiration.
cultures and different backgrounds, but we're like all, the same community. So
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I do want to give a shout out to somebody that's doing a great representation, who works really hard too. Is Patty, what's her last name? Deandra, she does Los Libros.
Patty Rodriguez. Patty Rodriguez.
Yes, to Patty Rodriguez. She does amazing work. She works really hard. She also represented, like she was working at the Ryan Seacrest show, which again, like it was a whole, she really made her mark there, and she worked there for many years. And now she's got this whole mission with Los Libros, which is bilingual books. And for anybody listening.
Great. She's our next guest.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for letting us know about her. But that is fantastic. I mean, we love it. I know that you said you learn a word every day, right? So I was reading, and tell me if this is correct or not, that when you enter a room, there's a Brazilian kind of saying that you say to everyone. Is it we? What's OI? OI?
Oh, oi.
Oh, so oi.
It's just like hello. It's like
That's great. I'm gonna start saying that to everybody when I walk into the room. I love it.
And for me, it's just with the language, guys, it's like, I think that no matter how old you get or how long you've been in this country or what your background is, it goes the same way for, if you're learning Spanish, if you're born in the States by a family that speaks Spanish, and you're learning, you shouldn't be ashamed of asking. If you don't know what it is, just ask. That's what I do.
Yeah.
It can be a serious conversation with very high profile people, and I'll be like, what does that mean? What, and you just learn it. It's no shame on it.
I feel like we just had a mini master class, right?
Yeah.
Right? With Camila. I mean, you're amazing. You need to put a master class on, honestly. We'll do it. Deandra, we're going to host it. We'll do it all together.
Yeah.
We'll do it. We'll get it done.
Perfect. And when Deandra says she's going to get it done, she's going to get it done.
She gets it done. She does get it done. Camila, thank you so much. You are just so wonderful. And thank you for
so
giving us your time
so
today.
Much. Thank you for sharing the time. And until next time, mis Latinas, besos a todas.
Go get her book.
and go get the book. Just
Yes.
try one bite.
That's
Yep.
Bye,
it.
everybody. Have a great one.
Beijos, everyone.
Mwah.
Beijos. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.